I don't remember my 20s that much because it was just like everyone else, all my friends having a great time, doing their thing, and I'm just like head down 100-hour weeks, doing whatever it takes to get started.
Hey there, I'm Eric.
And I'm Alex.
We're just a couple of dentists who have been through it all.
From buying practices to startups.
From navigating the military to developing software.
And doing it all while still managing to stay married.
To each other, if that wasn't clear.
So if you're tired of watered-down dental advice and want real strategies that work, you're in the right place. Welcome to Just a Couple of Dentists.
All right, Alex. So I get to bring on one of our good friends today who's been on the podcast before, and I convinced him somehow to pay us some money to sponsor the podcast. It's probably just, because I was like, hey, man, we've used you forever. Now you need to help us out, right? No, anyways, all jokes aside, we've got Reuben on again today,
yes.
right, who's the owner of Darkhorse Tech.
Yeah.
So a little bit of background if you guys haven't listened to any of the episodes before. You know, when we did our two startups, we used Darkhorse right after we got hacked, 6 months after my startup, right? Yeah. Like it was ransomware. The offices were completely shut down for a while. We had to hire...
Well, just your office. It was affected.
Yeah, it was just mine, not yours. But we had... Yeah, right? But we had the same IT company. No, wait, we didn't. Did you have him before? I forgot. See, I don't even remember the story. It's all blacked out in my head. But anyways, the IT company we used got hacked and then it affected our offices, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, luckily I had an insurance writer, right?
Yeah.
And that helped a ton because the insurance paid like $50,000 is what it cost to like negotiate with these like terrorists.
Yeah.
And then I called Reuben. I remember I was associating at another office in Parker, and it was a 2-story building. Mm-hmm. And I remember it was like cold out. Yeah, because it was like end of November and it was like freezing outside already here in Denver. And I remember I was like on the phone with him several times, like freaking out, and he was like part therapist, part helper with it. Like I don't even really know the guy, and he kind of helped me talk through. Like I was like, what the fuck do I do with this? And he was very good in calling about like, we'll get it figured out. Like, you know, we'll work on getting your data back up. We'll like once it's unlocked, we'll figure this stuff out. We'll get you back up and running. And then like since then, we used them until we sold to the DSO in like end of 2023. Had to go with a different IT company, and then like a year or so later, we ended up going back to Darkhorse. So now we're still with them again. Yeah. So it's kind of like a fun full circle story. But yes, I really appreciate those like those calls you took, because I was like, these guys.
Yes,
like,
Eric was spiraling.
Oh, I spiral pretty easily.
I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know. So we're so glad you were
loss of control,
so
right, in those situations where you're like, I know I need help, but this is not my wheelhouse. Who the heck can help me out here? So
it's like us as dentists already freak out when we're doing an extraction, right? That we're trained to do, and something happens. When like you hear like your stuff is locked, you're like, you literally have no freaking idea what to do as a dentist. So like you can't even like manage the complication, and that's what's scary. Mm-hmm. So thanks. I am always indebted to you for that. That was super helpful. But no, I thought it would be fun to have you on today because we were talking recently, and you know, we had found out you guys ended up becoming like the biggest dental IT company in the country, right? Like recently, you guys.
2025, we went from 2 to 1, which was, I didn't get into this to be the biggest. I didn't really have much of a business plan besides be my own boss. So everything that's happened since then, I'm just extremely grateful for. But there was no like master plan to like be the behemoth in the dental IT market.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, let's just go through. I think it would be cool to kind of, like you said, you started with one client, right? And now you've gotten to be the biggest dental IT company in the country. Yeah. I think for a lot of listeners, it would be really cool just to hear the story of how you got to that point. Like what business principles you did that you can like reflect back on and be like, yeah, that was super helpful. And other ones where you're like, that was a massive mistake. And maybe we can like, cut down on some of those mistakes for people who are either just starting a practice or thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super supportive of the entrepreneurial mindset, right? It is, and that's why I love startups too. It's so much fun to be a part of someone's life when they have this like pure directional energy. Like it's just awesome, right? And this was me at like 22. I had graduated North Carolina. My dad's a dentist. My uncle's a dentist. That's how I know this industry. And I got a job at Benco Dental. That's where I worked. When they hired me, the guy that was supposed to train me, they fired 2 weeks later. So there was just me.
Oh, geez.
And then they were basically like, hey, you're going to go into all these offices and you're the expert. So first lesson, it's a really fast way to learn something. It's not the most comfortable way to learn something, but I am extremely grateful for how quickly I was able to get reps, small talk, talking to, professional doctors, talking to, an office that has 8 women in it. And you walk in, you're like, oh my God, I'm not used to being in this environment. I'm 22, whatever. I'm so looking back on it, it wasn't the most comfortable way to learn. It wasn't a warm onboarding by any means, but my skill set, not just in IT, but in all the soft skills, dramatically increased in that time. And ultimately what happened is, a couple years later after I had started working there, I looked up and I saw I was in the top talent, of their IT technicians across the board. And that's what ultimately gave me the confidence to start my own company.
Nice. So first off, sorry to hear, I know when this episode releases, March Madness will already be done, but UNC did lose yesterday. Alex has no idea.
That's
what
you got out of all of that? Yeah. That's what you got out of
that? Oh yeah.
Geez.
I almost did the interruption. Hey man, Indiana didn't even make it. So whatever. I can't
Duke almost lost. That's all.
Yeah, right? Yeah. But yeah, so that's the big takeaway here. This is why we need Alex on. Otherwise, our conversation will just divulge into college basketball.
Yeah.
It will.
Yes. No, but do you feel like you had a lot of those soft skills at 22, or do you feel like you were the stereotypical like awkward IT guy, or did you also you could talk to people?
Yeah, probably a different background than most IT guys you meet. First, I went to a small college called SUNY Fredonia. I got recruited. I was a pitcher, so I played baseball there for 2 years. Then I transferred to North Carolina and became I was the captain of their Division II hockey team. So I wouldn't say I was like shy by any means, but I don't think I was used to going to rooms where it was me and 8 women. And it's like, all right, let's fix this computer and let's talk about The Bachelor, like whatever show was on. So,
I could have done that because I watched many a season of The Bachelor.
Yeah, you would have been very prepared.
Oh yeah, I was joking. Yeah. I think I've watched more seasons of The Hills, more of the OC, more of Laguna Beach, all those stuff. Yeah.
Here's a question for you guys. Like, we're all like business owner. When did you wake up and realize that you're a salesman?
Oh gosh, probably the first time I had to see a actual patient and have them say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were naturally more nervous about it. I think I just grew up, like my dad was always in sales and always talked to people. Like that part wasn't hard for me. The hard part for me was more of the confidence of like doing the work and feeling like I was going to make a mistake. But like I don't get nervous walking into a room in front of people. I almost see it as like a challenge. Like I kind of
but you don't like asking people for money.
I don't like asking people for money though. That is true. And
that's what sales is though.
Yeah, I always tend to, between the two of us, like I might be the one, probably because I'm more of a people pleaser, and I had to change that a little bit. Like I'm probably the first one to be like, well, let's just give it to him for free, right? And so like that part of sales was probably tough for me, is to like understand your value, and that it's like, this is what it is. Don't like put that on a pedestal and like have the expectation that like someone's gonna like scoff at you, or a patient's gonna get angry if they hear your crown's $1,500.
They don't work for free either. Yeah. Right. And my dad was known to be susceptible to a sob story, which is why he had to eventually hire a strong office manager and like create this separation, because he's like bleeding heart, loves taking care of people, but he would make $0.
Yeah. And it's that. So we had a good balance between that, because you see it, I think, more like, that's a bad way to say it. It's not just transactional, but you probably naturally go towards more of that. And it's like, I provide a service, you can pay me for it. I'll still take care of you and help you. But like, I don't see all this extra, like, she doesn't like spiral down like what's going to happen, right, if someone says no. Whereas I think I would more.
Mm-hmm. I guess so.
I think so.
Maybe.
But it's like, it's us engineers, like we have this really hard time identifying ourselves as salespeople, because like honestly, we've had so many bad experiences with the salesperson who promises everything, and we're the people who actually execute on the stuff. So there is this like this relationship between engineers and salespeople in multiple companies. It's not just Darkhorse or another firm out there, where it's like, what did you guys sell? What do we have to do? What did you promise? We have to do this on a Sunday. There's always, so coming into starting Darkhorse, I had this natural of I'm not a sales guy, right? And my wife Shannon it took her 4 years to convince me I'm actually in sales. I'm like,
Yeah.
But she'd be like, you're selling yourself. I'm like, okay, that's a little bit better.
If you like our podcast, check out Alex's newsletter, Just 2 Minutes. It's full of great advice, which makes sense considering it's her thoughts and not me sidetracking her every 2 seconds. You can subscribe at coupleofdentists.com. The link is in the show notes. Now, back to the pod. Yeah, but it probably, I wonder if that worked for you because, other people that we know that have started other companies that have kind of grown and been just a startup and maybe didn't have a background where they've had multiple exits, right? And they're just like, this is my first big startup. Yeah. You guys kind of came at it from a very at least in our experience, right? I never felt like you were pushy with anything, right? When we were talking about it, you actually led with just helping for free and you didn't ask for anything, right? And I think that makes a big difference to dentists. So I think that may have been a little bit of an advantage, right? Where, it didn't feel like you were trying to close a deal. Mm-hmm. I never got that vibe.
Yeah.
That is the way, because I also don't see myself as a sales guy. And I'm like, I got to close Eric on this meeting. I don't have this playbook. What do I lean into? What I'm good at is fixing things. So even before, you're not even quoting you at this point. I'm just like, let's go in. And that's where my passion is. You don't have to convince me to go down that rabbit hole. It's like, what's your problem? Let's go fix your problem. Oh, by the way, how many computers do you have? I guess I should send you a quote, a week later. So, the lesson there too is I didn't need any motivation. Because I really love what I do. So there was people have to wake up in the morning and suck it up and convince themselves to go into work. And I've never had that gut feeling where I'm like, oh, I have to show up to work today. There's a never ending amount of problems I get to solve, but that's what makes me happy.
Yeah. See, that's nice.
Yeah.
So, okay. So then let's go back to it. So you said, hey, I think I can do this myself, right? I think I can start up a business. So tell us you said you started with your first client. Can you go through how you started and how you grew and all that stuff?
Absolutely. So it's crazy enough, my first client wasn't even a dentist, right? So I'm still working at Benco at the time. This is March 2012. And an assisted living facility that my stepmom was connected to needed to modernize their, IT system. And she's like, I know. My stepson does the IT thing, he's an IT guy.
Yeah.
He can help you out. I, put on my slacks, my only polo that I owned, went in there, gave a PowerPoint presentation. And they're like, okay. So, I was only making 36 grand at that time. Right. Yeah. So when they signed $1,000 a month service contract, it became real for me that this was a possibility. And also I was like, I just need to get really close to that 36 number and I'm out of here because this is awesome. I get to design the system. I get to install the system. I get to interact with the people and I get to fall through the entire way. So I did that. I had several other connections that I feel like people just help me. I would go into an office and they'd be like, if you ever left, let us know. We love you, Reuben, the technician. If you ever left this, this larger organization, look us up. And I got to about 25,000 a year in projected promises, not signed, just hey. And I remember the day, I was in Whitestown Dental Care in Utica, New York, in the parking lot when I submitted my 2 weeks notice, and never looked back.
Nice. Yeah.
That's scary but exciting at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I don't remember my 20s that much because it was just everyone else, all my friends having a great time, doing their thing, and I'm just head down 100-hour weeks, doing whatever it takes to get started. So
Well, that makes sense. I feel like there's like a theme there with like people that just like, don't do the whole like experience in my 20s
No,
and go off and I just want to be in Europe and whatever backpack. It's like if you like that when you have like no other priority, well not priorities, no other like responsibilities.
Yeah.
You don't have like kids or a wife or like all these other things. It's just like you can literally sleep in your car if you needed to. It's like that's when you have to take like the big risks and.
Yeah. It's so true.
Like,
I was in a leadership conference in New York last year, and Scott Galloway, he's so entertaining.
Yeah,
he was speaking because he's in the whole like, young men are failing. How do we promote them? But he was talking about what are the traits of somebody that is like very successful in life. And I don't mean like you were given something to start and then life's going to be fine because you have this, but it's like it's your head down, you work for 20 years. And like, there's this whole movement of like lifestyle. I only want to work part-time. I want to do this. Do a little bit of that. But life hasn't really changed that much. Right? The people that are successful are pretty much workaholics. Yep. They put their head down. They pick it up in their mid-40s. And they have built this career that can sustain the rest of their life and the lifestyle they want to do it. And so there's this like, because I'm 39, but even when I was a kid, everyone in restaurants when I was working in them were like my age. And now my best friend owns a restaurant. Everyone's like 30 plus and it's like their career.
Yeah.
And they're like, I can't afford this. I'm like, I don't think these jobs were ever made for 40-year-olds. I'm pretty sure they were made for 16-year-olds flipping burgers.
I know.
Paying the mortgage.
And then so like I wonder too, like on that, now you've got people who probably, a 16-year-old, a 20-year-old is probably like eager, hey, this is my first job, right? Like you could maybe argue they do a better job, right? Kind of like when you go to a Chick-fil-A, it's usually a lot of younger kids, right?
Yeah.
And it's because they haven't been in it that long, they're eager, they want to learn, they still want to progress, right? Like they see this as like the entry point and they'll start to work their way up because they're still young. When you get these people who are in like their 30s or 40s and they're still doing that, I don't think they're doing it and saying like, this is where I'm starting. Yeah, I'm on a track. When I'm 60, I'm going to hit this. I think they're like stuck and they may not be as happy where they're at, right? And then you can argue like, well, then is customer service worse, right? Are they not giving as good of, that's stereotyping like everyone in there. And you don't want to do that. But like, I wonder if that's a piece of it too, is that, there's people who were in jobs that like, they should have like career progressed out of that job like 10 years ago.
Or they went to their boss and was like, I don't really want to work on Fridays. Right? It's just like this.
Yeah.
I get it. There's this whole like Gen Z, and I'm an elder millennial, right? I have the distinction of getting a cell phone when I was a senior in high school. That's kind of like the benchmark. A flip phone wasn't even a smartphone. But anyway, I want to have everything. I want to have the lifestyle, I want to go on vacation, and I want to get paid $1 million a year. Yeah. They're an unhappy generation because no one has gotten through to them to tell them, like, if you want to make money, you have to work for it and show up every day and do the boring stuff. And you're supposed to learn that by getting fired from your dishwashing job at 16 because you didn't show up to work and they fired you. And you're like, oh, this is how this works. If I don't show up, then my job won't exist and I don't get paid.
Yeah.
No, because all they're looking at is like on social media, seeing someone with like a fake car in the background going like, I don't work and I do this. And it's like, you don't
the
do
number
anything.
one desired job is influencer right now.
Yeah.
It's not nuts.
That's exhausting. Who wants to do that?
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I don't know. Even in our situation, like at our office, like I like our associate. He produces well. He doesn't call off when he's sick, stuff like that. But like, he takes a lot more time off than I ever did. Like, it's usually like, it was a month-long trip in January, right? And then he'll take like Thursdays off. We only work Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and he'll usually take a Thursday off every month to go skiing.
I've never been away for longer than 2 weeks.
Yeah, and so like it's just it's one of those where it's like it's you can't then complain about wanting to make more money, but then also like we already have like a 3-day work week that's really long, so it's already like perfect for people who want work-life balance. Like, stop taking off Thursdays. I don't know. That's just
I'll have an employee send me an article that's like, we should only work 4 days a week, and then I send them the office hours for our clients.
Okay, so completely switching topics because I just saw you. Well, by the time this episode comes out, this will be old news. But as of today, when we were recording it, there was that news that came out because first thing I do when I wake up, go on Facebook, and I think you were the first person I saw. And it was on like Dental Investment Group or something like that, and you had posted about Open Dental changing something where now they're going to actually tell users or people using Open Dental if the third party company they're working with, whether it's an AI receptionist, right, or something that's tracking
Insurance
your,
or something.
Insurance verification, or they're tracking like patient engagement stuff.
Okay.
If they're not like kosher with Open Dental is going to tell you that they're suspicious.
Okay.
So can you quickly talk about that and then tell us this whole thing about like closed versus open systems? Because I feel like a lot of dentists are hearing about like, do I do server-based, cloud-based, and all that kind of stuff.
We all know Eric wants more friends. If you're enjoying this episode, share the podcast and then tell them to DM Eric so he can hit his quota of 1 new friend per day. Now back to the episode.
Yeah. All right. Where to start? So very passive aggressive move by Open Dental. So what they did is they released an update overnight that generated alert when any user logged in today. And if you use a third-party vendor that's on their naughty list on their website, you get a message that says this third-party integration you're using might corrupt your database, and hey, don't blame us. Never seen a company do this before. They usually do it a completely different way, but like, what a morning. So I post it everywhere because in IT, people call us when their power goes out. Like, and they're like, my server's off, but I'm like, the entire grid is down. So when it comes back on, give me a call. But like, so that is me trying to get ahead of, that's why I posted in Dental Investment and Sunny and Dental Nachos, is to like bring awareness that this message is, let's say Open Dental, they need to change their name at this point because they were the last practice management software with a true open architecture where, Brandon from Flex Dental, right? His wife is, practicing dentist. He can just go into his basement, code up Flex, and doesn't need Open Dental's permission and can design something and sell it, right? Those days are kind of over at this point. Why Open Dental is doing it is a really, really interesting thing. The two brothers, the Sparks brothers, are getting into cryogenics. It's a privately owned company. Very like there's not a lot. We don't know a ton about what motivates them and why they do what they do. So I don't know if we'll ever figure out why they did this, but I guess it's kind of on brand for them to just like release an update where everyone gets a message that's like tisk tisk.
I mean, maybe it comes from like maybe they see like Dentrix or Eaglesoft and all those, and they're like, shit, how much money are they getting from these companies? Like, we need an extra revenue stream. Or maybe Open Dental's not growing as fast as it was. And then you get some of these players that are like, well, we're going to just bypass it, right? Like we have to pay if we integrate with Dentrix, but we don't have to if we do with Open Dental. Maybe they're just like, well, screw that. Like, I'm sick of like giving this away for free.
I know, but you get a vibrant marketplace of apps where Dentrix does not have that same thing. Why do people still use Open Dental? You just have all this freedom of choice and selection. Yeah. And but Occam's razor, you might be right, Eric. They might be trying to sell the company.
Yep.
Which means like, oh, hey, we do this, we'll spike revenue, we sell, and they're probably in their 50s. That honestly, the simplest answer might be the best here. But that is what happened. Is so. Let's say modern programs are native in the cloud, right? You don't even think server, but they're on a server, they're in the cloud, and what Open Dental is doing is basically what all those other companies require. So an API application program interface is basically a bridge, right? It tells you how you can interact with the program, and it's a limitation on it. It's so that you potentially can't corrupt the database, and then Open Dental has to deal with, because you developed your own tool and you messed up the database. Now Open Dental has to clean it up. So it's
now,
not coming from
is it because Open Dental doesn't actually like not own the database, but like you can get into their database because it's not like what's the right word, right? It's not like
Open
internal
source.
or it's not. Okay, it's open. Yeah, okay.
Open source.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can encrypt it. You can password protect it and everything like that with the MySQL password. I do recommend doing that. But like, if you wanted to convert OpenDental to PMS software you made on Claude, you could. All the tables are right there in the MySQL folder. Like, they're not hidden. You can't do the same thing with Dentrix, with Patterson, or anything like that. So it's a different program. But it's kind of like you got to pour one out for your homies on this one, because they were the last. Their name is literally OpenDental, and even A2 Brutus, like the last one. So there's an opening if someone were to pull this off, because we have to realize OpenDental is 25% of the market, and that program was written in the 90s. Why is that successful still? Dentists, you guys say we want freedom of choice. We don't want to be locked in. Every single startup that is happening in this business are silos. They want the maximum monthly recurring revenue, you to stay in their ecosystem. They don't want to play. They don't want to have a competitive, let's say, paperless forms module that competes with their own. The incentives are not there for people to build these open ecosystems. So you kind of just need a benevolent person to come in the marketplace and be like, here's a cloud-based PMS. It's a $249 a month, and do whatever the heck you want. Pick your own product.
Yeah. Seems like you're hinting that you might be doing something like that.
Hey, if it's not me, I hope someone else does it.
Yeah.
I'm not a programmer, right? So I need to ask, it's like we're talking about you needing help at home. I need help with the program side.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but totally. I mean, I think that was like the cool thing with OpenDental. Like it was weird. It's weird to say the words like counterculture stuff in dental, right? Because it's not like cool like skateboarding, right? But like I feel like they were kind of the like when we did our startups, or when we graduated 2013, like we kind of knew about OpenDental, and then when you did startups, like they must have had a massive market share of startups because I feel like everyone I knew did OpenDental, like everyone.
So we've done 500 startups at this point. We've done a lot. 425 OpenDental of the 500. Swear to God. Even today, you're seeing a little more Oryx, a little more Archie. Like you see Archie all over the place. Not that many people. Like there might be 90 users. Like their marketing team is way bigger.
I don't know. I'm finding becoming an influencer myself with a podcast. No, or like you posting too. Like I'll find sometimes too that like it's easy to talk a lot on social media, right? But like, are people actually like buying what you're selling, or are you just throwing a bunch of shit out and just making yourself look like you're valuable?
And look, PMS is one of the hardest things to sell.
I'm sure it's
switching costs are
switching costs, so it's
hard.
super sticky, right? If you get someone, I feel like a lot of people don't leave because there's so many barriers to leaving, right?
Which makes those products very lucrative because they have a high lifetime value.
Yes.
But for you to leave OpenDental, there would have to be a very big carrot at the end of that, right? Because you can run a killer practice, as you guys have proven, too, on OpenDental. So it's all right, it's cloud-based. That doesn't really make me more efficient. Now, if it got into the realm of like, oh, this tool is AI-powered RCM, I need less employees, then maybe we're talking about a different calculus, right?
Yeah.
But if it's just, it's in the browser versus on my like a desktop app, you can run multiple $3 million practices. So it's like,
okay, so to like wrap it up, this is what I would want, Reuben, and you tell me if like you think this is what Dennis would also want. And maybe some companies, I think some companies are trying to do this now, like with some of the ones you've mentioned. I don't know if I've never demoed them. I've heard mixed things, right? But like, I feel like I would want a PMS system, right? Practice management system that's first and foremost like manages my charts, my notes, like is that piece of it, right? Like, but then, man, it would be nice if instead of having to like log into Dental Exchange, right? Log into Pearly to do my patient AR, right? And stuff like that. If like they are either like built all those modules themselves, or if it was like a much nicer transition or integration to those
integration.
other things, and they all talk to each other, right? And it was more seamless. Like the one thing we liked that Flex did that I think Brennan did a good job with was taking those digital treatment plans, right? Like I think that was one of the main things he did that got a ton of people on it.
Yes.
And it was so nice because it solved the problem of like you
had the middle thing. The middle problem was like the spreadsheet. You had to take your open dental stuff, treatment plan, convert it to a spreadsheet for the most part to like change it into English, or else you're like
and
like,
then you had to print it and you had to go
and then
over
print it and
you
stuff.
scan
So
it.
it was like, oh,
Hey,
why are
listeners, you know what that is? Alex was the API.
I was the
Had this
API.
information, and then you carried it over to another system, right? You were the API in this system.
So my point on that is that seems to work. So like I would love that in a system, and I would switch out if there was something that like all that stuff worked together. And I'm sure that's really hard to build, right? And really hard to do. I don't know what in your opinion, what's the best way to do that?
So standards hurt innovation, right? And their price barriers. There's a lot of things. So it depends on what the mission is. The mission, you want to maximize innovation, right? Or do you want a lot of cool products, but they're barriers, right? So you're going to remove some of the highest outcomes, but they're going to be, it's a controlled environment. Maybe like when you're developing a PMS, instead of saying, hey, you click here, it's a bridge, it launches this other program, we say, no, that's the old way of doing it. Now we want SOTA imaging, iris imaging integrated into the chart. There's going to be a spot for it. So when you hit that button, it launches inside your existing practice management software. We're not going outside. Oh, we want Pearl to be inside of SOTA, right? So we're never leaving the ecosystem.
Yep.
But we're also still incentivizing the PMS to be one vendor, the imaging software to be another vendor who only cares about imaging, and Pearl who only cares about AI. So that's where you get to use the best products as a business owner, is when it's not Dentrix branded imaging, Dentrix branded AI.
Yeah.
So you're just like, I hope you're good at everything.
Yeah.
Dentrix. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, nice. Well, yeah, we should do a whole nother episode on that piece because I feel like that is a hot topic now. I feel like over the last couple of years, you've seen, at least when we graduated, it was like, are you using Dentrix, EagleSoft, or Open Dental? Right? Like I think those were the three choices. There were old ones. I don't know if it was like CareStack or CareStraight. Like there were some ones that were just like old soft dent, right? Some stuff that that people didn't really like. I think I worked in an office that had that once. I was like, yeah, this is very, very old. But it was like three main players, right? Is kind of the choices. But
it still is.
Yeah.
But it seems
those
like
three are 75% of the market still.
I mean, you still see though. Like I feel like in terms of marketing and what's being pushed out there, that's when you start to see like the Oryxes, the Archie ones doing it, all Curve, right? All those other companies that are trying to do this, and so it might be interesting to have you come on and kind of talk through some of the PMS stuff because like I don't understand it, and I feel like a lot of dentists maybe don't understand it at the level they need to when trying to make a decision on what to pick.
Yeah, it would be a really interesting conversation because we still have probably 80+% still doctors on local server-based systems, right? That is not going to stay in place for that long. The next decade is going to be a giant transition to the cloud. Why hasn't it happened yet? No one has hit the thread of what you guys are looking for from a product standpoint. Otherwise, we would have had massive adoption by now. So it's an excellent topic to continue scratching that itch.
Nice. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.